Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Monday. This year is going by fast. We're already in the second half of the year and in the second week. I'm just going to wait for some people to tune in. I have a good topic for you guys today. I always try to have good topics for you guys. Once you come in, please say hi, leave a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. I'm back in the office. I am based out here in Orlando, Florida, but I represent clients in all 50 states. So for those of you who send me DMs saying, you're in Massachusetts, you're in, South Dakota, wherever you are, we can still help you with your immigration matter. I'm just going to wait for a couple more people to tune in before I get into the meat of this. And if you're tuning in for the first time, definitely share this video so your friends can tune in. Also, hit the subscribe button on YouTube and the like and follow button on Facebook. When you do that, you're able to see or get announcements when I come on live or whenever I talk about, immigration stuff. If you want to stay up to date, you can definitely do that. Okay, so let me introduce myself. For those of you joining for the first time, my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration attorney. I specialize in family immigration matters, marriage-based cases, fiancé visas, conditional removals, VAWA petitions, any humanitarian-based cases. And my phone number here is 407-995-6567. You can also send us a WhatsApp message. It's 404-333-8751. For those of you on TikTok, you can probably check my profile. It has my phone number and our WhatsApp number. For those of you on YouTube and Facebook, you can see it scrolling through the ticker. Let me make sure that the ticker is scrolling through. So if you can see it scrolling through, you can let me know in the box. Guys, you're so quiet today. Comment and say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Okay, so today I want to talk about conditional green cards. And before I talk about that, as always, if you have questions, please put your comments in the comment box. Once I finish talking about my topic, if I still have time, I'll try to go through as many of them as I can. So let's talk about conditional green card. So the first thing is, what is a conditional green card? So a conditional green card essentially is a 2-year green card. So what that means is that your green card is temporary until you meet certain criteria before you can become a permanent legal resident who gets a 10-year green card that's eligible for citizenship and eligible for renewal. Okay, so majority of the time when, hi, Macadonas. Oh my God, Macadonas, do you now go to bed? What time is it? It's like 6 a.m. in Washington. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so as I was saying, so a conditional green card is typically given majority of the time during a marriage-based case. So if you're married and your spouse files for you, if at the time they approve your case, you've been married for under 2 years. If you've been married for under 2 years, what you're going to get is a temporary, also known as a conditional green card. If at the time of your approval, you've been married for more than 2 years, you're going to get a 10-year green card. So critical differences between the 10-year and the 2-year is that with the 10-year green card, there are no conditions on them, which means you don't have to file for removal of anything because it's not conditional. Macadonia, you're so funny. Thank you for tuning in. But with a 2-year green card, you must file for removal. So how do you file for removal? So the first thing that you need to do is, if you and your spouse are still married, you need to submit your application together. So think about when you were married, like all the evidence that you had to submit to show that you have a legitimate marriage, to show that, you and your spouse entered this marriage in good faith and it's not just about the green card. Now, when you're removing the conditions in your green card, they're going to be looking at it with even stricter scrutiny. And what do I mean when I say stricter scrutiny? So like a lot of people, when they're non-green card holders, the standards are that if you say, oh, we didn't file taxes together, oh, we couldn't open this because, I didn't have a social security number, blah, blah, blah. Those things are easier to show and make more logical sense, because the likelihood is that you might not have a job. You might not have gotten your social security number. You might not have had time to acquire things together to show that you have a legitimate marriage. However, when you, good morning, those of you on TikTok, I can see you all. Good morning, everybody. Again, if you're tuning in, drop a comment in the box. Say hi. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We can see you in here, so don't be quiet. Don't be shy. Ask your questions. So what was I just talking about? I don't remember what I was talking about. But anyway, so the same way that you have to show that with marriage, think about it as ×2. Because when you have a conditional green card, USCIS expects that at this point, you have your social security number. At this point, you have the ability to work. At this point, they're expecting that you're making more income. And that because of that, you guys should have acquired more things. So if you come and you say, oh, we don't have anything together, we don't, we couldn't open a bank account together, we couldn't do social security or whatever it is, they're going to look at you with more scrutiny, because they expect you to have these things at this point, because at this point, you might already have been married for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So they're expecting you to have those things. And so, if as long as you have those things and you're acquiring those things, you will be successful removing your conditions with your spouse. Now, as I'm sure you guys know, with almost everything related to law, there's always an exception to the rule. So what happens when you and your spouse are not on good terms? When you and your spouse are not on good terms, and it's time to remove the conditions on your green card, you're going to have a few options. The first option is, if you guys file for divorce and get a divorce, you can remove your conditions based on divorce and ask for an exception. We call it a waiver, but it's basically saying you're being exempt from applying with your husband. And you have to show proof. Still, one, that you're divorced. That's number one. Number two, you also have to show that you were in a bona fide marriage, and it's just that the marriage didn't work. So I see people coming in all the time or asking me questions. Oh my goodness, my husband wants to file for a divorce. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be able to get my 10-year green card. And like I say to you guys, because your husband or your wife wants to file for green card, file for divorce, does not mean you're not going to get your green card. USCIS understands that sometimes marriages don't work, right? 50% of the United States, their marriages end up in divorce. So they understand that. The only thing is that if your spouse, your wife divorces you, your husband divorces you, you just want to make sure that you still have proof that even though this marriage didn't work, this was a real and legitimate marriage, okay? Good morning, Dev, how are you? So that is the critical piece. Now, here is the kicker. Okay, actually, I'll tell you the kicker once I talk about the next one, about certain time exemptions. Then the next thing that you can use as an exemption if you and your spouse are not in a good place is being qualified to file on the basis of what we call extreme cruelty or abuse. So if you have a spouse who's extremely cruel to you, I talk about extreme cruelty all the time. You can scroll through, my timeline and videos. I think I have some videos that specifically talks about how your spouse is toxic or gaslighting you and all of those stuff. So you can go look for those. But if your spouse is extremely cruel to you, right, you can submit a request for removal on conditions of your green card. But again, similar to divorce and similar to doing it with your spouse. Good morning, guys. Good morning. I am going to acknowledge all of you in a second once I finish this thought. Similar to, that to divorce and similar to filing with your spouse, you need to still show that your marriage was legitimate. It's just that you had an awful partner who's horrible, right? There are many partners that are very controlling. There are many partners that might even be good. Once their spouse gets their green card, there's something, it's like a brain touch. Like all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to give her that green card, because they all of a sudden feel like that person is going to leave them, so they start treating them badly, start controlling them, do this, do that, do this, or whatever it is. So if that's the case, you can petition to remove the conditions based on extreme cruelty or abusive behavior. But again, with all these different options that I'm giving you, you must still show that your marriage in the first place was legitimate, that you guys really entered the marriage. It's just that for these reasons, the marriage didn't work. Of course, there are other exceptions, like if your spouse, God forbid, passes away, you can file a removal of conditions based on your spouse's, death, right? And then the last option, which I generally don't like talking about, but I will share that with you, is extreme hardship of why you cannot file with your spouse. Well, one, that you can't file with your spouse, and that if they attempt to deport you, you will have extreme hardship in your home country. This is an incredibly difficult standard to meet. Very, very difficult. Because there are very few countries where they'll say, okay, there's extreme hardship there and you will not survive. This is not just normal, it's going to be hard for me to find a job. My family is here. It has to be really extreme. So what you need to focus on, if your spouse is not willing to do it with you, which are the two areas that I want to focus on, is if one, you guys are having issues, you might want to consider divorce. Don't be afraid to sign those divorce papers. If they want to give you divorce papers and you're running away and you don't want them to serve you, sign the divorce papers. Because if you don't sign the divorce papers and there's no abuse in the marriage, you won't remove the conditions in your green card. Because what they're going to say is, well, yeah, you're filing based on you and your spouse being separate, but you've not filed for divorce. And if you've not filed for divorce, we cannot grant you conditional removal based on divorce. Yes, you can submit your application if you have a divorce pending, but you better hope that the divorce is going to happen within the next 87 days, because what usually will happen is they will send you a request for additional evidence to provide that divorce decree. So those are the two areas where you can remove your condition if things are not going well with your spouse. If things are going well with your spouse, then follow with your spouse. In all these three, on all these different categories that I mentioned, most of the time removal of conditions take anywhere from 18 months to 24 months, okay? I know some people are concerned about timelines and stuff. Even if you fall into one of these two categories that I'm mentioning, where your spouse divorced you or there's extreme cruelty, the timeline of when you submit that application does not matter. I've submitted a divorce application after the divorce happened 12 years, okay? So, I'm not telling you to wait 12 years because, you could get deported. But the point is, you can submit as early as, events start happening, or as late as when you realize that you have options. So if your spouse is being abusive, if your spouse is being extremely cruel, if your spouse divorces you after 6 months of you getting the green card, you can submit a petition. You don't have to wait for 2 years to submit it. The only time you have to wait for 2 years is if you're removing the conditions with your spouse, okay? So if you're removing the conditions with your spouse, then you can do that. And, I know some people also, another thing is some people have said, oh, I filed for conditional removal, and I really have a legitimate marriage, but my case was denied. You have an option. If your case was denied and honest to God, you had a legitimate marriage, give me a call. We will prepare you a new application. We'll prepare you a new application and make it more solid. Right? I don't believe in, not trying, you keep trying until you get to what you need to get to. So if that's you, definitely give me a call. My number is scrolling through. So I'm going to go review some of the questions that are coming in and try and answer your questions. Good morning, Dad from Facebook. Good morning, Patricia. 7 stars. Good morning. Alicia from New York. Good morning. Mushin Ribani, hi, very useful information. Thanks. You're very welcome. Tiffany, good morning from Bahamas. Obioma, good morning from Tampa. Okay, so on TikTok, somebody is asking, can you apply to become a citizen with a 2-year green card? So the answer is yes. And this is how it works. So For those of you who have conditional green cards, if you're still married when you file for removal of conditions, right, with your spouse, at the 3-year mark from the date listed on your green card, you can file for citizenship. This is a caveat that I always give. You better be damn sure that you have a legitimate marriage and that your conditional green card is going to be approved. Because what typically happens is that you'll be scheduled for both your conditional green card interview and your naturalization to become a US citizen interview. If you're divorced, this is not going to apply to you. This is only going to apply to people who are currently married or who are in extremely cruel marriages, who are filing based on abuse. So if you have everything together, all the proof, all the evidence, there's no question or anything that basically alludes to this going to, this being a difficult process, then by all means file for citizenship. If you're not sure, then you just wait until they make a decision. Once they make a decision, then you can file for citizenship. So the answer is yes, but you want to make sure that you're submitting a solid conditional green card packet that will get you that approval so that you can also naturalize at the same time. Because a lot of times when you submit, by the time they schedule you for an interview, it's already, the timeline has already reached for your citizenship. And then another thing people ask is, I didn't submit my conditional green card for removal. My green card has expired. What do I do? So here's the good news. When you submit a conditional green card removal application, your green card is automatically extended for 18 months. And they extend it for 18 months because it takes a long time to make the decision. Sometimes it can take 24 months, which is basically 2 years, which is why they do this extension. And if you are one of those that's sitting in that pending stage and your extension expires, then you can request an additional stamp on your passport to extend your green card while your case is pending. Okay. Good morning, Lizzie from Virginia. Okay, so good morning. What do I need to do? I was scheduled with my wife for a second interview twice, but I rescheduled it because I had a contact with a COVID patient, and the second time my attorney did as well. But now the one of my family filed for me has just been approved. Does it have any effect? Well, honestly, the answer really depends on your status. Okay, so your case is not one that I can just give a random answer to. On Facebook, definitely schedule a consultation with me, because knowing your status here, are you currently here as an overstay? How'd you enter into the country? Because if you file a family petition, what are the chances that you're here with a current visa? Because if you're not in an immediate relative category, the odds of you being able to adjust here are unlikely. So it just really depends. But give me a call, 407-995-6567, and then we can evaluate it and see what's going on with you. Okay. Someone said, can I get a divorce while my VAWA petition is still in process? Of course. Absolutely. You do not have to stay in a horrible marriage when you have a pending petition. So if you file VAWA, and for those of you that don't know, it's when you're basically filing a self-petition by yourself because you have a cruel and abusive spouse and you don't have any green card at all. Okay. So if you file VAWA, you can file for divorce. Okay. And even if you're divorced, you can still file for VAWA. The only requirement is that you can only file for VAWA within 2 years after divorce. After you've been divorced for more than 2 years, you will no longer be eligible for filing for VAWA. And on the topic of VAWA, another question that I get asked all the time is, if I submit a VAWA petition, my petition is pending, it's taken so long, I've met the love of my life and I want to get married. Do not do it. Do not do it. Do not do it. If you have a pending VAWA case and you go marry somebody else while your case is pending, kiss your VAWA case goodbye. It's basically like that never existed. It becomes null and void. So you need to wait until they make a decision on your case before you marry. And a lot of time people are like, well, I'm just so in love with the spouse, I'll forgo it, whatever. But listen, it's going to take you the same time. But the difference is with this new person, you're most likely going to get a conditional green card, which your valid case that has already been pending. If you get approved, you're going to get a 10-year green card. So you're not going to have to deal with this anymore. So please do not do it. Do not go remarrying or abandon your case. Okay. Good morning, Child Blessed on YouTube from Massachusetts. Somebody on TikTok is asking about asylum. Any updates about it? I've been waiting for so long for my interview. Unfortunately, I actually don't take asylum cases, but I will tell you that asylum cases are taking like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Like they're taking a really long time. I'll actually say that they're probably the longest that we're seeing. So, I'm sorry about that, but that's just, kind of what it is. And, the question you're asking is that after your interview, when it's approved for your asylum, can you apply for your citizenship directly? Absolutely not. You cannot apply for your citizenship directly. The only way you can get citizenship as an asylum person is to have your green card, right? Is to have your green card for, 5 years. But prior to that, you still have to wait a year after you get your asylum approved before you're eligible for your green card. So, you have a little while to go to get your green card. Okay, let's see. Do you guys have any other questions for me? What time is it? I have about 4 minutes, so I can take 1 or 2 questions. Let's see if I'm missing anything. And then if you guys don't have any questions, you can ask me next time, or you can certainly call to schedule consults. Okay, so I don't see any other new questions, but thank you guys for sharing this morning with me. I'll be back here tomorrow around 9 a.m. Eastern time, or between 9 a.m. to 9:05. So put the notification. I know some of you keep saying you don't receive that you didn't know that was going live, so my normal live days are Wednesday at 11 a.m. But like I said, I'm trying to go live this summer. My kids are in summer camp, so I'm out here super early. So before the day gets crazy, I'm just going to try and bring as much info to you guys as possible. AOJ, my phone number is scrolling right down there. It's 407-995-6567. Again, for those who didn't hear the first time, it is 407-995-6567. And you said that you've done your first interview 2 years ago, and this year you were rescheduled for a new interview before my family petition got an approval. Yes, you being rescheduled for a second interview basically means that they didn't believe you in your first interview. Most of the times when you go for a marriage-based case and you get a request for a second interview, those are usually what they call Stokes interviews. So those are never really good. Just let me let you know. So you need to make sure that you're on point and prepare for that, and they don't basically say you have a marriage sham, because if they say you have a marriage sham, you're probably not even going to be able to do the family petition. But the thing is, do you even qualify to do the family petition? Because them petitioning for you and approving you doesn't mean you can adjust, because it's going to really depend on what your current status is here in America. If you are in a family preference category, you're probably going to have to go back to your home country if you are not in status, because you're going to need a hardship waiver. Again, if you want legal counsel, definitely call me, and then I will understand what your scenario is and tell you what your options are, okay? Somebody's asking, so this is the last question because it's almost 9:30. I have a green card. I have a girl with asylum who has an asylum case pending. Can I get married to her? Listen, I don't make the decisions for who you can or you cannot marry. You can marry whoever you want to marry. If you're asking me whether you can petition for her or not, if you have a green card, you can only petition for somebody who is in a valid status. Okay, because when you're a green card holder, you're in what we call a family preference category, which means that you have to wait for a visa to be available. Okay, so your girlfriend probably is not in a, I don't know. Let me not evaluate. I don't know what her status is, if she's filed asylum, but she's here on a valid visa or what it is. But your best bet is file for her once you become a U.S. citizen. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you had a great day. You found some great help and knowledge by listening to today's live. Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. Please share this video on Facebook so your friends who want to know, be in the know of what's going on in immigration can know. And make sure you hit the like button and follow button on Facebook and TikTok. All right, guys, chat with you tomorrow. Bye.